And I said, you know what? The budget I have to plan to go to college is not going to work because my dad is no longer here. And now we're going to have to live temporarily on some assistance to get by. We're going to have to live on survival benefits. I'm going to have to work, of course, work my way through college. And they said, well, look, you don't worry about anything. We'll make sure you get the loans and the scholarships necessary to get started. But you're going to have to work your way through school. You're going to have to work during the summertime. You're going to have to work during the holidays. You're going to have to work part-time while you're in school. And I said, fine. That is a small price to pay for the privilege to get an education and to hopefully one day live out my dream, and that is to be a doctor. And sure enough, I did. I probably had along the way, I probably worked about 10 different minimum wage jobs. And with the good Lord's help, with His blessings, made it through college. And then I got accepted into medical school, began medical school, and I got halfway through the first year, and guess what happened? I ran out of money. Okay? I ran out of money. And, but you know, again, the Lord was looking out after me. Began showering me with blessings. And I was reading in the newspaper that Congress had just passed a new law, a new bill, because the draft had been ended, Vietnam was winding down, and the law came out and said, you know, we're going to need doctors for the future to serve in the military. So they came up with a scholarship program. If you're willing to serve in the military, that will pay your way through med school. Well, I was probably the first guy knocked on the door for that program. It's still in existence today. Many good doctors in the military today as a result of that scholarship program. And I served a year for every year that they paid my way through school, in addition to my 3 years of residency training and family practice. I was in the Navy for 6 years. And for me, ladies and gentlemen, it was a win-win situation. Because what an honor it is to have this relationship with the military and the U.S. government that would pay my way through school in order to have my service in the military. And at the same time, I get to serve the military again. What an honor. Indeed it was. Served 2 years on Guam. Served 1 year in Charleston, South Carolina, 3 years at Camp Pendleton, a Marine base, Southern California. And I value those years so much, and even now as a member of Congress, I still go into military bases, meet with generals and admirals all the time, go on board aircraft carriers. And I just look back with the fondest of memories of those days that I wore the uniform of the United States military. And I can tell you, from my perspective, nothing is too good for those who serve in uniform, who stand point out in front every day, standing in the gap to protect us. And we are very blessed to have the strongest military in the world. We always want to support them. So I had to work my way through. Nothing was given to me, but with the good Lord's help and with blessings, I was able to make my way through school. I started a medical practice in 1982 in Minden. Along the way, I opened up some small businesses, and that began to grow and thrive. My wife and I, my wife for 35 years now, we ended up with 4 kids, all of them grown now. And now we have 3 grandchildren. We just had a little granddaughter. She's not even 2 weeks old right now. And I happen to have a few pictures. I know some coincidence that I brought with me today if anybody wants to see them. But I was there. I spent 3 days there. I got a little break, and my wife's been there for several weeks. But I was there 3 days. I heard her cry one time. I mean, when you have a baby like that, trust me, you're going to end up with a dozen. I mean, you know, this is an amazing child when it comes to, she's happy no matter what you do for her. She's just satisfied with it. And that's the kind of baby we love. So anyway, everything that I've achieved in life, everything I've accomplished in life came with hard work and with the blessings of God. And I'm so appreciative of that. It's been a great honor to serve you now in the 5th year as a member of Congress. And you know, this is the place I want to be. Plain dealing is where you have plain speech, right? And where you get the plain truth. And I'm not here just to talk about Washington. More importantly, I want to hear what you have to say. I'm more interested in what you have to say than my colleagues in Washington. I'm more interested in what you have to say, CBS, NBC, and ABC. I'm more interested in what you have to say than all of the Republican or Democrat political consultants that we have in Washington. Because 9 out of 10 times they have it wrong, and I know you have it right. So I'm going to give you some introductory remarks, and then I'm going to open the floor for questions. And I want to hear your questions, and I want to hear your statements. I want to know how you feel about things. 3 main topics that I would like to touch on. Number 1 is religious liberty. And of course, we've got Sheriff Whittington here, who well knows the problem that we're seeing in Washington. Washington, and this administration in particular, is doing all it can to remove every vestige of religious activity, religious acknowledgement, religious expression from the public square. Now, you notice that we just had a prayer and pledge. Each morning in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, we do that. We have Bible studies in the Capitol of the United States. We have prayers. We actually have church services sometimes in statutory hall. Now, if we can do that in Washington, why can't you do it in the schools and the stadiums and all the other public places? Why? The First Amendment provides for freedom of speech and religious expression. There is the Establishment Clause that simply says that you can't have a state-owned or state-operated church. Well, we don't have anything like that. England does, but we don't. And, in response to complaints made by the Danbury Baptist Church in 1803, Thomas Jefferson wrote a letter back and said, "You're right. Government should get out of the church, and that's why we should have a separation of church." He said nothing about religion being in the public square, nothing. And yet we've had judges along the way who totally reinterpreted that and bent it into a pretzel to say, well, what we need to do is have separation of church. We should build a wall and we should prevent having religion in the public square. That is nonsense. The Founding Fathers never said that. That is not in the Constitution. It is not contained within the First Amendment. Now, what do I mean by what are the things that are going on in Washington to separate religion from the daily life of Americans? Well, first of all, Obamacare. And we'll talk specifically about Obamacare. But you realize under Obamacare, healthcare workers are going to be forced to participate in getting abortion pills and in abortion procedures. They could lose their jobs. They could lose their being able to be a student as a nurse or as a doctor. Private businesses who refuse to pay for those services through their healthcare system, such as Hobby Lobby, could actually lose their ability to control that and end up paying their dollars that actually assist in abortions and abortion pills. And then institutions such as Catholic hospitals, they lose control of their ability to not have to participate in abortion in any way, or even contraception or sterilization procedures. They don't believe it. Now, I don't have a problem with sterilization or birth control. I'm not a Catholic, I'm a Baptist. But I recognize their rights, just as I have a right to not be forced to pay for or in any way participate in those procedures. So that's number one. Obamacare wipes those out, and we have 43 lawsuits over that right now. And we've been winning on most of them. And some are going to make it to the Supreme Court. But right now, at least according to the executive orders that created in relationship to Obamacare, those rights are rapidly being taken away. Number two is the military. Two things happen in the military. Number one is, traditionally, if you've been in the military, you know that you can talk with your friends, your colleagues about religion if you like, about your religious beliefs. You can have a Bible on the desk. You can have a cross on the wall. You can have depictions of soldiers maybe carrying some emblem or something like that that may have some religious overtone. Perfectly acceptable for over 230 years. And all of a sudden, the Pentagon is wiping all of that away. Charging active duty members, even chaplains, for religious expression, either judicial or administrative punishment. Drummed out in the military in some cases. Having to have their prayers. I mean, our good pastor here today, Dr. Hill, he just gave a prayer. Sir, did anybody request a copy of your prayer in advance? Did anybody tell you that you couldn't use the word Jesus? Well, in the military, sir, that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what is happening. Even in a Christian service with a Christian pastor. Now, what is also happening is that humanist secularists want to replace chaplains with atheist chaplains. Yeah. An oxymoron. What is a chaplain? A chaplain is a person of faith, somebody who believes in the spiritual world and a life after death, who is assigned to a secular organization. Now, if you replace that person with a secular person, what is the point of a chaplain? That isn't a chaplain, okay, by definition. We have a chaplain in the House of Representatives. We have one in the Senate. Many police departments have chaplains. That is what a chaplain